Okay, so a lot's been happening in the NHL in the last couple of weeks. The Florida Panthers win their first Stanley Cup. The draft has taken place, Celebrini going first overall to the San Jose Sharks. And free agency, and we're going to discuss free agency. So free agency spending has now exceeded $1 billion for the first time in the NHL. There are still free agents out there. I think the spending is now pushing $1.1, $1.2 billion in contracts have been dished out in the last week. So spending's gone through the roof. Absolutely exploded through the roof. And most teams are either within $2 million of the salary cap or over. So Toronto and Tampa are over the cap. Vegas is, I think, over the cap. Multiple teams within $2 million or less to the cap. And then you have teams like Calgary and Anaheim who are just above the cap floor. So there are some teams who are not spending money, and there are some teams that have overspent. Now, there's been a big discussion in recent seasons in regards to the LTIR and how it's been used. Every team finds a loophole to use LTIR, by the way. Vegas, obviously, with a team of note this year that people were complaining about. Tampa in the last couple of years as well. Colorado, for example. These teams that are at or over the cap have had to use LTIR to stay cap compliant. When these players get reactivated off the LTIR, generally in the playoffs, and a lot of fans aren't happy with how the LTIR system is being used. But guess what? No team has technically broken the rules in regards to LTIR because you need an independent doctor to verify that that player is on LTIR. And if Lena at Vegas was reactivated, they're well over the salary cap. Mark Stone obviously spent most of the season out. He did have a spleen injury. People were saying, oh, it's all made up, it's fake. No, it's real. He was very, very badly injured. Couple of seasons in a row, he's been on LTIR for huge portions of the regular season. We've seen teams have to short bench in the regular season where they can't name a full roster to start a game. And they're going without a defenseman or a fourth liner just so they can be salary cap compliant on match night. So the salary cap is an issue, and it's been an issue for several years since 2020. It's been a flat cap, very few increases, and of course escrow has caused a lot of problems. Now escrow has been paid off, spending's gone through the roof. Now the fact that Calgary and Anaheim, for example, are struggling to stay above the cap floor tells you one thing about those franchises. Anaheim's in the middle of a rebuild, Calgary are in a mess. Other teams being over the cap, well, that's on the general managers. That's on the general managers being willing to sign these contracts and players having very good agents. Players have got some very, very good agents. Some of these contracts will become problematic. Minnesota have got cap problems. They're in the middle of buyout season. They're still suffering from buying out players. Other teams have had to buy out players and put them on waivers in order to complete the buyout. I can see a lot of trade activity taking place this off-season. There are those teams like Calgary, like Anaheim, who've got a lot of cap space. I think San Jose have a fair bit of cap space as well. Utah, who are the former Arizona Coyotes, have a lot of cap space. Those will be the teams that are weaponizing it. They will be the teams who will be happy to make trades. There are other teams like Toronto, Tampa, Vegas, who are buggered when it comes to cap space. Absolutely up against it. And there is a lot of frustration from fans in regards to LTIR. Now, the teams, the owners, the general managers are happy with the LTIR system, but fans don't like it. I do think at some point, by the time the next CBA comes along, there are going to have to be changes to the LTIR system. A lot of changes are going to have to happen. The salary cap is going to continue to rise. The NHL has been recording record profits in recent years. They've broken the $6 billion mark for profits. That's after expenditure. So the NHL is starting to make a lot of money. A lot of money. We can argue the pros and cons of the current TV deal. They've signed north and south of the border in Canada and the US. We can argue the pros and cons of that. That's worth a lot of money. Now, the Bally Sports situation and the Bally networks, a lot of teams are, well, trying to figure out their broadcasting partners. Florida, for example, has signed up a free-to-air broadcaster to broadcast their games in the state of Florida locally because they were on the Bally networks locally that went belly up. Now, Bally Sports is still trading. They're in bankruptcy protection. They haven't gone bust yet. But a lot of teams are considering their future broadcasting options. And that all factors into this spending spree we've seen from general managers across all 32 teams, if you add them all together. And there's still free agents out there. And then we haven't even gotten to the entry-level contracts where the maximum earning potential is nearly $1 million for an entry-level contract now, maximum. The league minimum is still $770,000, but the maximum for an entry-level contract has another $200,000 on that before bonuses and sponsorship deals. So Celebrini could earn $4, $5, $6 million this year if all bonuses and sponsorship deals that he'll be signed up with are taken into account, those third-party deals. But his contract is near enough $1 million for a rookie. So entry-level contracts get factored into this as well, because technically those players will be classed as free agents. In a sense, even though they are signing their entry-level contracts, that gets factored in. And so when all these entry-level contracts are signed before the start of the season, or I think before trade deadline in February, spending is going to continue to climb. So we're seeing records broken by the NHL over the last week. Look for more teams to make trades to free up cap space. We could have a very, very busy summer in the trade market before pre-season starts and before the regular season gets underway. And even into the regular season, we could see a lot of trades. Now, people say the salary cap makes it harder for teams to make trades, but I think the fact that 4 or 5 teams are right at the bottom of the salary cap list in regards to how much they've spent, obviously Calgary and Anaheim being the 2 examples who are just above the cap floor, and Calgary have the most cap space, we could see some of those teams with a lot of cap space really weaponize it. Now, LTIR could be a thing. You could see some cap dumps. But the fact that Calgary and Anaheim, for example, are just above the salary cap floor, they can't take a cap dump for LTIR purposes. They will want to make trades for trade purposes to get players onto their rosters. They may give up some draft picks. They may give up some bit part players and some prospects. But we could see a lot of movement. And to freshen the deal, picks will be going the other way for next year's draft and drafts thereafter. This could be a very interesting period going forward for the next couple of years for the NHL, but I think discussions around LTIR, league minimum contracts, and salary cap are going to be a big talking point in regards to CBAs and the future of the NHL over the next 5 years. We are going to see the cap go up significantly before the end of the decade, and we are going to see potential further expansion within the next 5 years. The league will expand past 32 teams, whether we like it or not, because that also brings in revenue to the league. Now, revenue sharing between the owners and the players when it comes to expansion and relocation, at the moment the players get none of that. It goes all to the owners and the league. So that again might come up in next CBA negotiations. But for me, for now, thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on NHL free agency and the state of the NHL salary cap and LTIR in the comments section below. And we'll have some more content for you guys very, very soon.